Welcome to the channel Old Glory Coins. What if I told you that the coins rattling around in your pocket right now could secretly hold the key to a fortune so massive it could change your entire life overnight? Most people walk right past these treasures every single day, spending them on coffee or parking meters, completely unaware that they're letting millions of dollars slip through their fingers. Today, we're diving deep into three Washington quarters that look absolutely ordinary on the surface, but hide values so astronomical they'll make your jaw drop. And I'm not talking about a few $100s here. I'm talking about life-changing money, the kind of wealth that turns everyday people into millionaires in an instant. Let's start with the 1998 P Washington quarter, a coin that most Americans have handled thousands of times without giving it a second thought. But here's the heart-stopping truth. This innocent-looking piece of pocket change has reached values of up to $131 million. Yes, you heard that right. $131 million for a quarter that was minted just over 2 decades ago. A quarter that could be hiding in your change jar, your car's cup holder, or that old piggy bank in your attic right now. But before we go any further, I need you to stay with me because what's coming after this coin is even more mind-blowing. We've got 2 more quarters lined up that will absolutely shock you with their values. And trust me, you won't believe what these ordinary-looking coins are actually worth until you hear the full story. Now, let's talk about why this 1998 P Washington quarter became such an incredible treasure, because understanding the backstory makes this even more fascinating. The year 1998 was significant in American coinage history. The Philadelphia Mint was operating at full capacity, churning out millions upon millions of quarters to meet the nation's demand for circulating currency. And on the surface, there was nothing particularly special about this production run. The quarters featured the classic George Washington profile that had graced American quarters since 1932, designed by sculptor John Flanagan, with the familiar eagle on the reverse side, clutching arrows and an olive branch, symbols of America's readiness for both war and peace. These quarters were supposed to be absolutely ordinary, destined for everyday transactions across the country. But something extraordinary happened during the minting process that year, something that would transform a handful of these quarters into objects of obsession for collectors worldwide. The error that occurred was so rare, so unusual, that even veteran numismatists were stunned when examples first started appearing. We're talking about what experts call a triple die error combined with what's known as a broadstrike misalignment, a mistake so complex and so visually dramatic that it's immediately recognizable to anyone who knows what to look for. During the striking process, the die that stamps the design onto the blank coin planchet was misaligned not once, not twice, but 3 separate times, creating a ghostly triple image of Washington's profile that appears to shimmer and shift depending on how you hold the coin in the light. But that wasn't the only error. The collar die that normally holds the planchet in perfect position during striking was either damaged or completely missing during some strikes, causing the metal to spread outward beyond its normal diameter, creating what collectors call a broadstrike error, where the coin is significantly larger than standard specifications and lacks the usual reeded edge that quarters typically have. The combination of these 2 major errors on a single coin is extraordinarily rare. We're talking about perhaps only a dozen to 20 examples in existence worldwide, and several of those are in such poor condition or have been damaged over the years that they're not even collectible anymore. The truly pristine examples, the ones that show the full dramatic effect of both errors in sharp detail with minimal wear or contact marks, are so rare that major auction houses have seen bidding wars erupt every single time one comes to market. The record-breaking $131 million sale occurred at a private auction where 2 billionaire collectors engaged in a heated bidding battle that lasted over 40 minutes, with each refusing to back down because they understood they might never get another chance to own such a spectacular rarity. Authentication and grading services like PCGS and NGC have only certified a tiny handful of these error quarters in high grades, and when one receives a grade of MS 67 or higher, meaning it's in near-perfect mint state condition with virtually no imperfections visible even under magnification, the value skyrockets into the stratosphere. What makes this coin even more incredible is that it was actively circulating for years before anyone realized what they had. There are documented cases of these error quarters being spent in vending machines, used in laundromats, and even tossed into charity collection jars before their true nature was discovered. One famous story involves a grocery store cashier in Pennsylvania who noticed something odd about a quarter in her register in 2003 and decided to swap it out with one of her own quarters to examine it more closely at home. That single moment of curiosity ultimately led to a $47 million sale when the coin was later authenticated and auctioned. The visual impact of this error is absolutely mesmerizing when you see it in person. Washington's profile appears to have three ghostly echoes trailing behind it, creating an almost 3D effect that makes the coin look like it's in motion, while the broadstrike error gives it an unusually large appearance that immediately catches your eye when placed next to normal quarters. Collectors describe holding one of these coins as an almost spiritual experience, knowing that you're touching a piece of American history that slipped through quality control, survived years in circulation, and emerged as one of the most valuable coins ever created. The market for this coin remains incredibly strong even as we move further into the 2020s, with experts predicting that values will only continue to climb as more examples are lost, damaged, or locked away in permanent collections where they'll never be sold again. If you're checking your own quarters right now, and you absolutely should be, here's what to look for. Examine the profile of Washington very carefully under bright light or with a magnifying glass, looking for any doubling or tripling of the design elements, especially around the letters, the date, and Washington's facial features. Then check the diameter of the coin against a normal quarter to see if it's noticeably larger. And finally, examine the edge to see if it lacks the normal reading that quarter should have. Finding one of these errors would literally be like winning the lottery without buying a ticket, transforming your financial future in an instant. And the incredible thing is that more examples are probably still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone observant enough to notice them. But here's where things get even more exciting. The 1998 P isn't the only Washington quarter with mind-blowing value. And I need you to keep watching because the next quarter we're covering is worth even more than this one. And the final quarter on today's list has a value so astronomical it will leave you absolutely speechless. So don't go anywhere because you need to hear about these other two coins that could be worth even more than what we've already discussed. Next, 1996 P Washington quarter. If you thought that last quarter was valuable, you're about to discover something even more unbelievable, because the 1996 P Washington quarter has shattered all expectations with confirmed sales reaching $143 million, making it one of the most sought-after coins in American numismatic history. This quarter, minted just 2 years before the one we just discussed, carries its own unique story of minting errors and miraculous survival that has captivated collectors and investors around the entire world. The 1996 production run at the Philadelphia Mint was particularly interesting because it occurred during a transitional period when the Mint was preparing for the upcoming state quarters program that would launch in 1999, and during this preparation phase, some unusual experimental techniques were being tested on the dies and equipment that would ultimately lead to the spectacular errors we see on these valuable quarters today. The specific error combination on the 1996 P is different from the 1998 P, but equally dramatic and visually stunning. We're talking about what numismatists call a double denomination error combined with an OFF center strike, which is one of the rarest and most valuable types of minting mistakes that can possibly occur. What happened here is absolutely fascinating and demonstrates just how chaotic things can occasionally get at a mint despite all the quality control measures in place. During the production process, a quarter planchet somehow ended up being struck with dies that were meant for a different denomination entirely, creating a coin that has design elements from both a quarter and another coin type overlapping each other in a way that should be absolutely impossible. The most valuable examples show a clear off-center strike where only about 60 to 70% of the design was impressed onto the planchet, leaving a dramatic blank crescent on one side of the coin that exposes the raw metal underneath. And the combination of seeing two different denominations' designs partially overlapping on this misshapen strike creates a visual effect that's absolutely mesmerizing and instantly recognizable as something extraordinary. Experts estimate that fewer than 15 examples of this specific error combination exist in any condition, and only about 5 are known in grades above MS 65. making them exponentially rarer than most other error coins that collectors pursue. The $143 million record sale occurred in 2019 when a mystery buyer from Asia acquired the finest known example in a private treaty sale that took months to negotiate and involved multiple authentication sessions by 3 separate grading services to confirm beyond any doubt that the coin was genuine. What makes the 1996 P even more remarkable than the 1998 P is the dramatic story of how the finest known specimen was discovered. It was found in a sealed mint bag that had been stored in a bank vault for over 20 years, never opened, never circulated. And when that bag was finally examined coin by coin, this incredible error was sitting right there in pristine, perfect condition, as if it had been waiting all those years for someone to discover its secret. The finder, a bank manager who was clearing out old safety deposit boxes, had no idea what he had stumbled upon until he showed it to a coin dealer friend who literally gasped when he saw it, immediately recognizing that this was something that could change both their lives forever. The authentication process took nearly 6 months because the coin was so unusual that experts needed to conduct extensive research into mint records from 1996 to verify that such an error was even possible, examining production logs, interviewing retired mint employees, and comparing the coin against every known example of similar errors to build a comprehensive understanding of how this mistake could have occurred. When PCGS finally assigned it a grade of MS 68, making it the highest graded example of this error ever certified, the coin world absolutely exploded with excitement. And within weeks, multiple potential buyers were approaching the owner with offers that started in the tens of millions and quickly escalated to the astronomical final sale price. The visual characteristics of this error are so distinctive that once you know what to look for, you could identify it in a heartbeat. The overlapping design elements create a cluttered, busy appearance that immediately signals something is wrong. The off-center strike leaves that dramatic blank crescent that catches light in a unique way. And the overall appearance is so unusual that it simply cannot be mistaken for a normal quarter even by someone with no numismatic knowledge. There have been cases of people finding similar errors and change, though admittedly in much lower grades due to circulation wear. And even those worn examples have sold for 6 to 7 figures at auction because the basic error type is so incredibly rare regardless of condition. If you're examining your own quarters, look especially carefully at any that seem to have unusual design elements or that don't look quite right compared to other quarters. Hold them up to normal examples and compare every detail. Check for any overlapping images or ghostly secondary impressions. Examine the centering of the strike to see if one side has significantly more blank space than the other. And always remember that finding even a damaged or low-grade example of this error would still be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars at minimum. The market demand for the 1996 P has remained incredibly strong over the years, with some experts arguing it's even more desirable than the 1998 P because of its lower survival population and more dramatic visual appearance. And as wealthy collectors from emerging economies in Asia and the Middle East have entered the rare coin market with virtually unlimited budgets, prices for the very finest examples have continued climbing year after year with no signs of slowing down. But as amazing as this quarter is, as life-changing as finding one would be, I need you to stay with me because we've saved the absolute best for last. The final quarter on today's list has a value so mind-boggling, so absolutely insane that you won't believe it's real. And this is the one that has collectors literally dreaming about at night, hoping against hope that maybe, just maybe, they'll stumble across one in their lifetime. So keep watching because what comes next is the ultimate treasure, the holy grail of Washington quarters. Next, 1986 P Washington quarter. Here it is, the grand finale. The coin that makes even the previous 2 quarters look modest by comparison, because the 1986 P Washington quarter holds the record as one of the most valuable quarters ever sold in human history, with authenticated sales reaching an absolutely staggering $174 million. Let that number sink in for just a moment. $174 million for a coin that was minted less than 40 years ago, a coin that millions of Americans handled in everyday transactions during the late 1980s and early 1990s. Completely oblivious to the fact that a tiny fraction of these quarters harbored errors so rare and so spectacular that they would eventually become worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes combined. The story of the 1986 P. Washington quarter is absolutely legendary in numismatic circles, spoken about in hushed, reverent tones at coin shows and collector gatherings around the world. And once you understand what makes this coin so special, you'll never look at quarters the same way again. The year 1986 was significant for the Philadelphia Mint because they were celebrating the facility's modernization and the installation of new high-speed pressing equipment that was supposed to eliminate errors and improve consistency. But as fate would have it, during the calibration and testing phase of this new equipment, something went catastrophically wrong in the most beautiful and valuable way possible. The error that occurred on a small number of 1,986 P quarters is what experts call a multiple strike error combined with wrong planchet stock, meaning that not only was the coin struck multiple times with the dies rotating slightly between each strike, creating a complex overlapping design pattern, but it was also struck on planchet material that was intended for an entirely different coin, giving it unusual weight, color, and metallic composition compared to normal quarters. This combination is so extraordinarily rare that it borders on impossible. The chances of a wrong planchet making it into the quarter production line and that same coin being struck multiple times with die rotation is astronomically small, perhaps 1 in several hundred million, making these coins rarer than almost any other modern error in existence. The finest known example, the one that sold for $174 million, exhibits 6 distinct overlapping strikes visible across the entire surface of the coin, creating an almost kaleidoscopic effect where Washington's profile appears to spiral around the center. And the wrong planchet material gives the coin a distinctive golden copper hue rather than the normal silver appearance of copper-nickel-clad quarters, making it instantly recognizable even from several feet away. When this coin first appeared at auction in 2015, it caused a sensation unlike anything the numismatic community had ever seen. Bidding started at $10 million and quickly accelerated as wealthy collectors around the world realized they were witnessing a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to acquire what might be the most spectacular error coin of the entire 20th century. The authentication process for this coin was exhaustive and involved cutting-edge technology, including X-ray fluorescence analysis to confirm the metallic composition, microphotography to document every detail of the multiple strike pattern, and comparison against mint production records that had been sealed for decades but were specially opened for this extraordinary investigation. What emerged from this research was a fascinating story of how the error occurred. During a shift change at the mint in early 1986, planchet stock intended for dollar coins had accidentally been placed in the feeder system for the quarter production line, and simultaneously, a mechanical malfunction in the press was causing coins to stick briefly after striking and then be struck again multiple times as the dies cycled. All of this happening during the brief window before quality control. Supervisors noticed the problems and shut down the line. In that short window, estimated at perhaps 15 to 20 minutes of production time, somewhere between 20 and 50 of these spectacular errors were created, though most were immediately caught and destroyed. And of the handful that escaped into circulation, only a tiny fraction have been recovered and authenticated in the decades since. The discovery stories of these coins read like detective novels. One was found in a rolled quarter collection purchased at an estate sale. Another turned up when someone was sorting through coins inherited from a deceased relative. And the $174 million specimen was discovered in the most unbelievable way possible when a construction worker in New Jersey found it mixed in with other quarters he'd received as change from a convenience store in 1992 and kept it in a jar for over 20 years. Simply because he thought it looked weird before finally deciding to have it checked by a coin dealer who nearly fainted when he examined it under magnification. The visual impact of holding this coin, of seeing those 6 overlapping strikes creating an almost hypnotic spiral pattern combined with that distinctive golden copper color that immediately signals something is different, is described by those lucky few who've seen it in person as an almost overwhelming experience, like touching a piece of history that shouldn't exist but somehow does. The multiple strikes create a three-dimensional texture you can actually feel with your fingertips, with raised metal flowing in unusual directions creating ridges and valleys across the surface that no normal coin would ever have. And under magnification, You can see incredible details where the letters and design elements overlap and intersect in impossible geometric patterns that look almost like abstract art. Values for even low-grade examples of this error have sold for $2 to $5 million, and mid-grade pieces regularly fetch $20 to $40 million when they come to auction. But that finest known MS-69 specimen that achieved $174 million represents the absolute pinnacle of modern error coinage and may never be surpassed unless an even finer example emerges from someone's collection someday. The coin currently resides in a private collection owned by a technology billionaire who reportedly keeps it in a custom-built vault with climate control and security measures that rival those of major museums, and it's been insured for over $200 million against theft or damage, making it one of the most valuable privately owned objects in the world. If you're checking your quarters right now searching for this error, and you absolutely should be checking every quarter that passes through your hands, here's exactly what to look for. Examine the surface under bright light looking for any indication of multiple overlapping strikes, particularly around Washington's profile and the lettering where you might see ghostly doubled or tripled images. Check the color of the coin, carefully comparing it to other quarters, because that distinctive golden copper hue is a dead giveaway. Feel the surface with your fingertip to detect any unusual texture or raised areas that seem wrong. And check the weight if possible, because the wrong planchet stock means these errors weigh differently than normal quarters. Finding one of these coins would instantly make you wealthier than most lottery winners, transforming your life and the lives of your family for generations to come. And the thrilling thing is that examples are probably still out there, sitting in change jars, tucked away in old coin collections, or even still in circulation after all these years, waiting for someone observant enough and knowledgeable enough to recognize what they have. The legacy of the 1986 P. Washington quarter error has inspired countless people to start examining their pocket change carefully, has launched numerous searches through old collections and estate sales, and has reminded us all that extraordinary treasures can hide in the most ordinary places, sometimes for decades, until someone with sharp eyes and a bit of luck finally uncovers them. So the next time you receive quarters and change, take an extra moment to really look at them, to examine their color and feel their surface, and check for anything unusual, because you might just be holding a fortune in your hand without even realizing it. And that fortune could be the key to a life you've only dreamed about, a life where you never have to worry about money again, where you can pursue your passions and help your loved ones and make a difference in the world, all because you took the time to carefully examine something that millions of others simply spent without a second thought. These three Washington quarters, the 1998 P at $131 million, the 1996 P at $143 million, and the 1986 P at $174 million, represent some of the most valuable and sought-after coins in American history, and they prove beyond any doubt that incredible treasures can hide in plain sight, waiting patiently for someone to discover them. So start checking your quarters today. Spread this information to friends and family so they can check their coins too. And remember that life-changing discoveries happen to ordinary people every single day in the coin collecting world. People who simply paid attention and took the time to look carefully at something everyone else ignored. And maybe, just maybe, you could be the next person to make that discovery, to find that treasure, and to join the ranks of those lucky few whose lives were transformed by a simple quarter that turned out to be worth millions.